For this week's Preppin data, we were looking into the comments from Carl's talk at TC. Obviously, these were made up comments because we didn't have the data. There wasn't a way to actually interact with the videos at TC, but a fun challenge nonetheless. So the first thing to mention is when bringing in the data, then you'll notice that we've got 3 different sessions, 3 different tables. So the first thing to do is that we're in the input step, we're using multiple files and we're using a wildcard union to find those. And we can leave the pattern for those sheets blank because then it will just bring through all of them. We could have put the word session in there to help if there were more sheets in that file that we didn't want to bring in, but thankfully that's all that we need to do, and we just need to hit that apply button so that we get that little plus in the corner up here on the input step. If I just zoom into that quickly, then you see that it's a plus, whereas if you just bring in any old input step, then it doesn't have that plus. If Tablet Prep will put it in the right place for me. No, it hasn't. Oh, there it is. There you go. So no plus there, but a plus there. So let's move on with what we're doing in this challenge. So let's take a look in the changes tab to see what we've done in this clean step. So first of all, we know that the talk took place on the 7th of October at 2 p.m. So we need to turn what was before just the time section, so that kind of goes from 0 onwards. It was a 25-minute session, so that's when the comments were happening. We see we get this kind of default time date associated with it. But for this challenge, we need to use a make date time function, and we're making a date around it being the 7th of October 2020. And we're then just adding 14 hours to the time that is there, because the time is always 00 at the moment. So we just want it to be how many minutes past 2 p.m. is it. So that's how we're making our date time field. So that's sort of the first thing we had to do. And then it's just a case of sort of removing some of the fields. We're splitting off the table names, so the word session, we're getting rid of that. You can see that in the calculation that's auto-generated from doing the split, then it's splitting on the word session and it's taking just the first bit there. So that's nice and useful. So then we just get the region, renaming that to be the word session, and we're just removing a couple of different fields. So the next step is to rank every participant's comments. So which one was their first comment, which one was their second comment, etc. and so forth. So if I just hit on the edit button here, then you can see that we're grouping by the who, and we're ordering it by the date time and making sure that it's sorting in a ascending order of time, so that we get our nice comment order there. And then from here, we're going to split it into 2 streams. So we'll treat our first comments differently to all the other comments. So we'll go for the other comments first of all. So we're just keeping anything that isn't the first comment. And we're going to work out if they're a question or if they're an answer. So that's a very simple calculated field here, just to say, does it contain a question mark? If so, it's a question. Otherwise, it's an answer. Nothing too complicated there. Removing some fields, doing some aggregation to count how many questions and answers were in each session, and then we just do some renaming so that the fields are consistent with the output, and that's all that we have to do for that output. Nice and simple. Now with those first comments, we're taking those forwards, and we are going to be looking at the cities and the countries and just kind of trying to get them in a uniform way. So if we are splitting the comment field into 2 based on the comma, because then we will have sort of our city and our country or our state, and then we split this as well to get our first time flag out as well. So we do some splitting there into splitting on the full stop this time, and we just rename and get rid of some of the different fields that we have there. So we just rename them to city, first time flag, and we're just going to call that the country. So from here, we are changing the city to a city data role. If I just zoom in on that quickly, then you'll see that in our data roles down here, we have got the city ticked. And if we see that, then we'll see that if we scroll down, then we have some exclamation marks. It's saying that Southend isn't a city, which I can assure you it's not actually. It's a town rather than a city, so it's not big enough to be a city. So that's why it's being flagged. And we've been told to filter those out. And the easiest way to do that is just to go to the recommendations and to filter them. Hit the apply there, and that filters those out. Now for our country, we do much the same. We just use the data roles to change it to being a country. We can see that this time all of our values that have exclamation marks next to them are states in the United States. So what it's actually saying here is that we can either filter them or we can group them all together and replace them with a null. So if we apply that, then we can then just go ahead and rename them all as United States. So just by double clicking into that null, we could just rename them to be United States. And similarly for the first time flag, I'm just literally double clicking in here, putting a 1 if it's a first time, putting a 0 if it's empty, and that means that we have the flag being a bit more of a Boolean value. So now what we're wanting to do is get our time zones sorted out. So very simply, we are using a case statement and a date add function to sort out the different sessions. So when it's America, then we want to add 5 hours to the date time. When it's APAC, we want to minus off 11 hours. And when it's EMEA, we want to minus off 1 hour. So nice and simple to create our new date GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. So that's where that is there. And we can see they're all sort of in the right region. So finally, all that we're doing here is just renaming some of the fields, reordering some of them, and we have the output that we wanted from the challenge. So hopefully that was all clear. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed all of Tableau Conference, and thank you for listening.